Oh, we're going off the rails again. I am conductor Craig taking us off the rails. I think that was the intro, if I remember
I
correctly.
think it was all aboard. I don't know. I think
Oh no no
you're
no! I would
you're definitely the conductor, though. There's no
yeah.
question. No question.
I would not agree
Yeah.
to an all aboard. That's just too far for me. So
Okay. Okay.
I would allow someone else to go with an all aboard, but I think that's just a little bit too much for me. But
Hold on. Let me. I don't know if I'm confident enough to do it. The all aboard.
wow,
good.
I mean,
That was amazing.
yeah, I would not have taken it that far. So yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. So hello, everyone. Welcome to Off the Rails, the show on the Diz Unplugged, where we take one topic and we go way too into depth on it and go into many tangents, but just sit around and have a fun conversation between friends. And I'm very much looking forward to it today. So again, I'm Craig, if I didn't already say that myself once, and I'm joined alongside by Denny.
Hi there.
And Jackie.
Hey, guys.
And Rhino.
Hello.
Hello. And before we get started, of course, I need to mention that this show is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, the experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. If you like us, you want to support our content here on the Diz Unplugged, please use Dreams Unlimited Travel for your next vacation because supporting them means you're directly supporting us. So get a free no obligation quote today at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And also, please take the time to give us a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and then also leave any comments, questions, or suggestions for us here in the comments section. And with that, let's get on with our show. And I know everyone's wondering what our show's going to be this week. Maybe the people.
What's our show going to be this week? Oh, I thought that was a cue.
It was a little bit of a cue, but I think it wasn't necessary. I didn't need to cue you up for it, but thank you. Thank you. So last week we talked about the things at Walt Disney World that we took for granted now that it's gone. And so this week we're going to flip it around because a lot of you left what you took for granted in the comments of our YouTube video on it. So we are going to flip this around and we're going to talk about the things that you took for granted at Walt Disney World and the Disney parks. And we've got a lot here that I'm sure will generate a lot of response around us. So I'm going to go ahead and read them. And as we go through the list, we'll throw our input into it because I'm sure we agree with a lot of these statements. So our first one that we're going to talk about, it's kind of a mashup between Jeffrey Neese and Diz Mindy. And this is about later hours. So Jeffrey says, later hours were another thing that we took for granted. I remember when Magic Kingdom used to be open till 2 or 3 a.m. some nights, made it great. Sleep in a bit, stay quite a bit later, and enjoy a night with fewer lines. And Dismindy 5767 said, late magic hours. Remember when there was not just one nighttime parade showing, but two? You could rest up, skip the first parade, catch the later nighttime parade, then stay for 3 late magic hours, then eat a cinnamon roll in the bakery at 2 a.m. Good times. And I'm honestly surprised that we missed this one last week because it's probably one of my actual biggest sticking points because I was that person that from 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. when it would be open, like that's my thriving hours.
Those are my jamming hours.
Yeah, those are my jamming hours.
Same here. I love it. I love that. You don't have to put sunblock on. Like that was my jam. The sun.
I was just gonna say, going into the summer months, that's the time that I'm gonna miss the most because I'm not an early morning person, and it's like you've got early morning or late at night are your options where you can avoid that heat, as you know. So I do miss those days where you could just be like, okay, it's 8 o'clock, I'll just go to the park now that the sun has set and I don't feel like I'm an ant under God's magnifying glass right now.
Well, yeah, and as a resort guest, like I was thinking back when I was reading this comment, and it's just so perfect. As a resort guest, I remember one of those evenings very specifically. We had flown down, the entire family. It was in the Magic Kingdom on arrival day, and we're running around and having fun. And it got later, but the Magic Kingdom, the park was open till 2 a.m. And so Grandma and Grandpa went back to their room. And, my hubby, the kids, and I just ran around like a bunch of nuts in Magic Kingdom until 2 a.m. And it was just glorious. And because when you are here and you don't live here, you want every single minute that you can get in those parks to try to, do everything that's really important to you. So having really late hours like that really just helped create memories, and you can get more done because there's not as many people in the park at the time when it's really late hours. And here's another one. Here's an addendum that I would just add to that is I miss the 24-hour parties. I know we only got a few, but man, they were good. And I didn't make it all the way through one of them, but I got I got close enough. And it was just those were so much fun. So yeah, late hours, extended hours in the parks, those were good things.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the 24-hour days as well, Denny. I know I did 2 of them on our coast here, and I did the last one that they did out in California, because the last one I attended, that was the start of the 60th anniversary at Disneyland, all the celebrations in May. So I think I made it there from like 6 a.m. until it was somewhere around like 2 a.m. the next night when I finally gave up. But like that was an awesome experience back in 2015. And yeah, I did the ones in Magic Kingdom as well too. I liked being the person, like so many others, who would come in at about 8 or 9 o'clock and then stay till 6 a.m. Like it was such a cool event. I'm sure it was a nightmare to actually execute on behalf of all the cast members out there who had to try to, take in those weird hours like that are completely not normal from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. for ride operators and such. But it all came together and it was a great time. And like people would just literally sit around the park in their pajamas and just hang out and sleep. It wasn't necessarily about taking advantage of the opportunity. It was just getting to be in the parks when you never really are ever at that time. So that was cool. But yeah, my family, we were the type that any extra magic hours at Magic Kingdom, whether it was the nights where it would be 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., we would be those people who would inevitably choose one ride, and that's the one you're going to stay at and go on it over and over and over again, to the point that the cast members start to get to know you and say, okay, just stay on. And that's how you end up doing Splash Mountain like 8 times in a row, being completely soaked to the bone because no one else was there. And you just got the chance to do it over and over. And that kind of stuff happens in the late hours. Plus, Magic Kingdom and all the parks, they just come alive at night in a different way. And the more hours you got inside those parks later, when it is the nighttime period, I think is better that way. Give me the magic of night at Disney versus the magic of the morn.
Craig is the Phantom of the Opera of Disney parks. He's just out there screaming, "The Disney of the night."
I mean,
that was perfect.
I don't know if that was a great impression of me, so I had a little bit.
No, it would have been much more majestic and elegant than what I just did. But
yeah, I mean, you were going for like the Gerard Butler take on the Phantom, and that's just not me. So maybe it's more Corey, but it's not me. But anyways, do we have anything else to say about late nights at the theme parks?
Not for this PG show.
Okay. Okie dokie.
Just kidding. I don't know.
Gross.
I'm trying to seem more interesting than I am. I'm sorry.
Denny, I know you also threw together a list of the comments too. So rather than me just read monotonously through all of them, can you throw out one that maybe you pulled?
Absolutely. Yep. I synopsized them though, but I think you've got the full.
If I have the full comment, I'll go into it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Richard Davis mentioned Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom. And I don't have his full comment, but essentially it was, the last time that they were here, it was a little crowded, that kind of thing. So just not having sorcerers available when you're in the Magic Kingdom anymore was something that he was missing, and which made me stop and pause. And I just remember it in its heyday, and you had all these, you could buy the binders for all of your cards, and I still have a couple, I came across them just last week, a couple of the special hard ticket event Sorcerers cards, like one specifically that was Orange Bird. And as a big Orange Bird fan, I kept that, and to be able to use it in the park, that's so special. And I know for a lot of people, it was a fun thing to do. And it also kind of hit a demographic that maybe is the kid who's not too cool for school, but is getting too cool for school. And so this gave them a little something to kind of to do in the Magic Kingdom. And there's a little strategy that's involved in playing which card at what time. And so I hear you, Richard, just the fact that that's not here any longer. I think it added just an additional layer of interactivity with the park that isn't there now.
It was also a free gift that when you would get your cards, it was that nice free surprise that you rarely get in a Disney park. I mean, I have a lot of the cards. I definitely have 50 over 50 of the cards besides like the special holiday ones and such, but I don't think I played the game more than maybe twice. And I just had no interest in it. It did not pique me, but I loved collecting the cards because I'm a pack rat. But I miss it for the free souvenir.
Mm-hmm. My kids loved it. We used to play and they absolutely loved it. And the four of us would go into the fire station and we would each get our pack of cards and we would open them right away. And then we would tuck them in a special pocket in my purse and we would put them. So I didn't buy the official binder at Magic Kingdom that was for sale, but I bought a tiny binder, one of those, it's just a little binder. And I bought little sheet protectors that are made specifically for cards for this binder. And so we sat there one night. I'll never forget it. We sat there in our villa because we were in a Disney Vacation Club villa. And so we laid all the cards out on the coffee table and we put them in numerical order into the little sheets so that we would know exactly which ones we were missing. And it was such a fun little thing to do. And I still have them like that. And then I got to the point where I would take that binder with us when we went so that we could trade cards with people that were looking through their cards, just like we would do when we came out of the fire station. So we had a lot of fun just doing that. And we loved when a little kid would come up to us and say, which cards do you have to trade? And then we would just give them cards because they only had just their first little packet. And I miss being able to do that because it's fun. It's fun to make other people smile. And, I miss that.
Well, that's why we're talking about this, to hopefully be able to find some peace and resolution through all of this.
Is this like a group to help people or something?
I think it kind of is. Yeah. It might be mine today. I don't know. We're gonna get through that too, but okay. So we have a couple more that I'm going to mention now that I'm gonna kind of knock these ones together and it'll create a theme that I'm sure we're going to go through here. But the home designer said, took for granted that rides would remain the same and not change. Too many changes have not necessarily added to the entertainment value, i.e. Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean, Universe of Energy, Body Wars, those rides that have changed over the years. So that was from the home designer. And then Brian B. said, I took for granted that everything would still be there, and with the exception of adding to the experience of being there, that nothing would change. I always thought, oh, well, there's always next year. So kind of lump those two together again, because I think the point of thinking that things would change and not or thinking that things would stay the same and not change is something that I feel like now more than ever we're definitely taking for granted. But I always thought more in like big picture ways. But when you really break it down, yeah, there is a lot changing, always changing. And the parks, at least from when I first visited, are still very similar, but so completely different from the early 90s.
They are. And
Sure
Marty
are.
Sklar.
Came in
Marty
hot and
Sklar-
late.
Yeah, there you go. We're both going to yell at the same time. No, but Marty told us, hey, it's not a museum, right? So, but yeah, I feel like we are just in a period, and probably just the last year with everything that we've been through globally, we are all holding on to things much more loosely than we used to. And I think that pertains, I think that pertains to Walt Disney World right now, because I think I've had to personally loosen my grip a little bit on something like just looking at Epcot. Okay, good heavens. And just all the changes that are happening there, and watching buildings be dismantled a bit at a time, and remembering the first time that I walked into that building and now it's gone. And so I have to hold on to things just a bit more loosely, because they are going to change, and change is not easy for any of us. Well, maybe it is for more people than me, but I'm sure it is. But and I'm sure I'm going to love whatever comes to the parks in the future, and whatever ends up actually coming to pass will be amazing. It's just a matter of, yeah, we can't always guarantee that thing or that experience or that attraction, that show, whatever, is going to be there next year or next time, next trip, because you just never know.
The first experience I had with something that we really liked changing was when the Frozen Ever After attraction went into the Norway Pavilion and replaced
Maelstrom.
I was at a loss for words for a minute. Yeah. And I thought, okay. But I was excited because I like Frozen, and it was, so I was excited about it. And I don't have any problem with IP being added to the Disney attractions at all. I mean, I was a person that thought, and still am, I think it's cool. And I think it's cool how it gets kids to relate to the movies, and so but that was the first biggest change that I experienced personally, and I was like, oh wow, okay, all right. So any of these attractions can, because then you start thinking of what other attractions they could change to go along with IP, and Splash Mountain's going to be different, and it just get your wheels turning.
I would say when you have those moments when you're able to do something that you love what you're doing, like riding an attraction or experiencing like a show or something like that, and you're, at a park and maybe there's no limited wait, and you're like, I'll do it over and over and over again. And then you get to that point where you're like, okay, maybe I'll stop so I don't ruin it for myself. Just ruin it for yourself. Do it again. Because I regret not getting on Rise of Resistance like at least once or one or two more times that day we were covering it for the media day, because they just let us keep walking on. And now that it has like the plexiglass in it, like even after we move forward, hopefully, I'm not a scientist. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of like in the park with the things like that. But let's say we've moved down the road a couple of years. I think those plexiglass things are like probably always going to be there. But so I don't think they're just going to actively take it out one day. So I'm like, I wish I had ridden it just a couple more times to have experienced it without the plexiglass. But no, I wish I had done it just a couple more times where no one was in the room. But I was like, I did it 3 times in a row. I'm worried that I'm going to overdo it. And yeah.
Yeah, it's always easy to jump into this conversation with attractions, but it does go beyond attractions that things change too. And there was 2 specific examples that we had in comments. One was from Elizabeth Davidson saying that for Elizabeth, Talking Mickey going away was a big one.
What the heck?
I'm
What
not,
the
I'm not
heck?
going
That's
down there.
Talking Rhino saying what the heck, because I like the Talking Mickey too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I know I'm the only person in the room who did not like Talking Mickey, but I.
Oh, no.
yeah, but
you're not.
you're
Oh,
You're not.
Jackie, do we see eye to eye on this?
Yeah, we met Talking Mickey one time, and it was odd.
he said something
was-
inappropriate.
I'm going straight
I'm
to
thinking Mickey like got vulgar with you all of a sudden, where you're like,
No.
it didn't match the atmosphere. Like Mickey walked in and he was smoking a cigarette or something, and was like, "What do you
He's
want?"
on his 10. What's your problem?
He was on his 10. Yeah.
I just hear him doing like ads in the background too for the Great Roll H. You can get online, go to the General, and save some time. It's like what is it? What
It's
is
my side
going on
hustle.
here?
Yeah, exactly.
He
Oh,
never
yeah.
says what I want him to say.
Yeah, it was
I love you.
interesting.
It's so hard.
So typical.
Yeah, I mean, I did not like him solely because it was always weird to me. I
Oh, I thought it was
Yeah.
cute.
just never
Too alive for you? Too night at the museum for you?
a little bit. Yeah,
Not enough Ben Stiller? Too much. I can't think of another character in that movie. Sorry.
I mean, you could have
Now
even
the
said
famous
Robin
Disney movie,
Williams.
Disney
You'd-
Plus movie.
Teddy
Well,
Roosevelt.
there's never too much Robin Williams. So.
Rami Malek as
Hank Azaria.
yeah. I mean, the list
Hank
goes on.
Azaria, who's who I was thinking. of
Owen
in my head,
Wilson,
but- Owen
miniature-
Wilson. Oh wow.
Steve
Oh
Coogan.
wow.
Uh,
Guys, should we just do a
Amy
Night at the
Adams?
Museum podcast?
who's Dominic Badke?
I don't know
love
that
Night at
name.
the Museum.
From Muppets Most Wanted.
That's a fun one.
Ricky
Dick
Gervais.
Van Dyke.
Ricky Gervais. Dick Van Dyke, yeah. And I mean,
He's in the first one.
well, spoiler, he was the bad guy.
Sure. People haven't seen it. It's been like 10 years. Give him a little more time. It's been like 15 years, actually, I think.
I mean, I feel like they hold up. Amy Adams, Amelia Earhart.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's part 2.
Okay.
I've only seen the
Faye
first 2.
Duke-
Anyways.
Faye Duke said, in terms of things gone and changed, being able to ride in the front of the monorail. That's a big sticking point for a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who now visit Walt Disney World who don't even know that was a thing you could once do because, that's been 10, 12 years since it's been gone.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, because I think it was sometime between 2007 and 2010, right? It was somewhere around there.
That's what I was feeling like. And so for background for anyone who hasn't been paying attention that long, but you used to be able to ride in the front of the monorail, whether you were going to Epcot or coming back to the TTC or Magic Kingdom, you could ride in the front. But then there was an unfortunate accident that happened that caused one of the monorail drivers to lose their life. And after that, there was a quick end to guests being able to ride in the front of the monorail. And it was a lot of fun. And you can still do it at Disneyland on their monorail system. So there's still a way to experience the riding in the front of the monorail. Or if you go to the Orlando International Airport, far less exciting, but you can ride in the very front window of the train that's taking you to the
Desperately
terminals.
try not to touch anything while while it's going on.
Exactly. But it was a one of a kind experience that was really neat. And usually they would have like the card for you that said you were a monorail driver that you could get at all the forms of transportation. And I get why it's no longer a thing, but it was a really awesome opportunity anytime you could experience it. And I have some good memories from riding in the front of the monorail. Now we're going to get into the part of this where there's probably going to be a little bit more tenseness to this, maybe a little bit more conversation. So yeah, strap in. Buckle up, weirdos, with this one. But I know we're going to have a lot to say with this first one, but from James Vitelli says, what I took for granted was that a Walt Disney World vacation would always be, financially speaking, an opportunity for an extra getaway or one that you could take with little notice or little planning. When we were younger, we could always squeeze in a quick trip to Walt Disney World without experience financial strain and without doing any pre-planning, except perhaps for a couple of 30-day out dinner reservations. Now, the cost of a Walt Disney World vacation makes it such that it cannot be in addition to vacation, and instead it has to be instead of vacation. Today, when plotting out my vacations, deciding to go to Walt Disney World means that something else has to be dropped from consideration almost entirely due to cost, and the days of last-minute trips with no pre-planning are long gone. I took for granted that I could ride e-ticket attractions at will and never imagined that I would have to decide in advance which park I was going to months ahead of time and which major attractions I wanted to go online to book in advance. I took for granted that a trip to Walt Disney World could be an affordable, spontaneous jaunt. It will never be this way again.
Jaunty.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna fight with this. I just meant it might incite some insightful conversation.
I feel like I could have this comment could have been left by me under a secret name, because I agree. Like I can't even. I was saying my middle name is John. It's close, right? Not at all. So I when Fast Pass Plus came around, that's where I was like, oh, this kind of removes this element of like fun and fairness. And I get people are like, oh, I like to plan out, and I don't want everything to ride on this one moment, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of like Fast Pass Plus, I feel like, was where it started to all spiral out of control for me, where it went from not being able to just spontaneously enjoy anything anymore. Because then I was like, well, not everybody was as well engaged with a smartphone when that came out as they are now. And then it became the dining reservations. And my mom, like I was with her in the park, like 2 years ago. And I remember she was like, I want to go somewhere nice for lunch. And I was like, yeah, sorry, Mom, we're going to quick service. Like we walked into multiple locations and they were like, no, beat it. Hit the bricks, bozo. You didn't have the advanced reservation. So I was explaining that to her, and she was like, then how do you just do anything? She's like, we didn't know we were coming. She didn't know she was coming to the park until literally like 2 days before. And so we were like, okay, well, let's go to this park. And so that's like, you're kind of screwed if you're not somebody who knows you're coming like 120 days out. You're getting less and less and less and less for what you're like going to experience, I guess. And so it's kind of become just such a hassle. I think that's why that Disneyland still has that magic to me, is there's a little bit less of that kind of stress with that. You can just kind of still be able to go about your day if you just decided like, I'm going tomorrow, or April 30th when it opens, whatever.
Yeah. I miss the being able to decide on a Friday afternoon that we want to come down for the weekend, and we get on and see which attractions had fast passes available, and we booked those, and we would know that even if it was spring break time like it is now, we would know that whatever the wait times were, however busy it was down there, we would at least have the 3 attractions that we were for sure going to get to ride on. And right now I'm really missing the ability to do that. So, because that was a last minute type thing for us where, we wouldn't plan months and months ahead living so close. And, it's tough because you see the wait times on some of these rides, and it would take you a full day to ride 3 attractions sometimes right now. So, yeah.
Off of what Jimmy said regarding price and how it used to be, this was, this was an ancillary trip. This was an additional trip to vacation. Now this is the vacation. It has to be because of the price tag that goes along with the Walt Disney World vacation. It is, and here's the sticking point. One of the sticking points. There are many, but a vacation here, quote unquote, is not a vacation. I mean, it is. It's a time away from your everyday life to kind of escape with your family or friends, or if you're taking a solo trip all on your own. I mean, that is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be here, but when you get back home, you are exhausted. At least I was exhausted because, like we said in the earlier conversation regarding extra magic hours in the parks, when you're here, you want to do everything you possibly can. You want to squeeze as much of savoring being in the parks in as possible. You want to have as many meals as possible. You want to do all the things. And it's like you're coming in hot at the end of the vacation. You are just getting to MCO to get on that plane and just pass out because you've done everything. And so you get back to work on Monday morning and you're tired and you've just had a vacation. But yes, with what he said in regard to the cost, the price tag of the trip, I remember we took a vacation, my husband's parents, for my mom-in-law's 60th, took the entire family down here, brought us down here from Maryland to celebrate. And I remember hearing the cost of what they spent on that trip. And granted, we got to stay at the Poly, like that was a dream come true kind of trip. But I remember hearing the price tag and going, okay, we're talking like I could have, I always think of things in view of how much a car was on like Wheel of Fortune when I was a kid, or on Price is Right. And I remember hearing that price tag and thinking that's like a car almost. Like what? But that is absolutely how much it costs to be able to vacation down here if you're going to stay on property. And again, that's the shame of the value resorts becoming more expensive. Like we had mentioned on a previous show, they were supposed to be the equalizer, right?
We're going to end with one last one. And this is probably one that I don't think a lot of us will agree with. Maybe some of us will agree with. I'm just introducing it into the conversation because it was a different comment from what we took for granted, and it's not necessarily the most nice comment, but I'm still going to read it anyways. And this one comes from Eric.
Craig is a terrible person. He ruins everything.
No, that's for next week's show, just about me. But Eric M said, I took for granted that it was run by competent people who cared about customer experience. And I think, and again, it's Eric's idea, not necessarily ours. Feel free to agree with him if you would like. I don't want to get in a complete defense mode with Disney because I will not let anyone sit here and tell me that every single cast member that's working there is proud to be a cast member and wants to be a cast member.
God, no. Yeah.
That is not anywhere close to the truth. A lot of people are doing it because it's a job. It's a job they got out of high school.
They live in Central Florida, and they're somebody going to college, or they're just somebody who needs a job. Like
there's a lot of people who fit into those categories, and then there's a lot of people who fit in the category of I've loved Disney and I'm willing to work here, even though I know I'll make less money because it's what I'm passionate about. There's people who see opportunities in professional roles at Disney to really, actually make a good living out of it. And hopefully they'll continue to grow in the company. There's a lot of people who fit in those categories that do love Disney and want to be there for that. So there's sometimes it is awkward seeing a person like Bob Chapek, who I personally don't have any hatred towards him or anything. I actually think he makes a lot of good decisions for as much as he makes some that I question, but he's just awkward because you can tell he cares about parts of the company, but not a lot of parts of the company that I think fans care about.
For me, I kind of just parsing through that comment, I almost want to draw a dividing line between, because he says the people who run the parks aren't competent. So I would argue, and I hear you, like they're going to be just like there's anybody at any business or anything that we walk in on, and there's going to be that cashier at Publix that is rocking it, and there's going to be that cashier that just is counting the minutes until they get out of there, because like you said, it's just a job. Like, it is just a job. So we as
you're also
fans,
sometimes both of those. Sorry, Denny. I have both of those things any day of the week too, though. Some days I love what I'm doing, and some days I'm like, I absolutely hate this. Like, that is how I've always been.
Yep.
At any job. Someday you're just like, I'm just not here for this today. And other days, like, I think about when I worked at Borders, like there were days where I'd be like, I love this. And ultimately in the end, I love that job and miss it so much. But it was a lot of, on the crap days, you're just like, it's literally what you just said. You're looking at the clock and you're like, when did time stop moving? So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just was saying that I 100% agree with what you're saying. It's just that I personally am both facets of those things, as Craig can very much attest to.
No, I think a lot of people fit into that category. Not everyone has the best day, but I worked with plenty of people in theme parks that I know they pushed through that. And when you know, there was always the joke at Universal that when you hit gate 2, you leave everything at the door, and because you need to, when you're finally at work, you need to be here about work. And you know, that's it. You can maintain that attitude for like a month, and then eventually you just can't anymore. It's you. Right. Sometimes life will just, it can't just sit at a door. It will impact every little bit of your work.
Is that what you're saying?
Life does find a way. And so there are always instances where you can be both of those types of people, but I do know a lot that that was their motto and they lived by it, and they would go on and be on. And as soon as they were out of work, then it's like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh, maybe you should have let out some of that frustration earlier.
You're kind of an actor.
No, that's true. That's true. My second thought to that was going to be in parsing through that comment. I would argue to say that a lot of the frontline cast, I mean, they're not the ones in decision making roles, and so they are simply there. If you're going to look at competency, with the parks leadership, you have to look at the people who are making those decisions. And those aren't necessarily the people with boots on the ground in the parks every day. And or they're in an office somewhere. And so the people who are on the front line are the ones who are tasked with the opportunity to have countless conversations about, masks and distancing and all sorts of things. And these are all things we need. And those aren't necessarily the best. Those aren't the best because those are necessities right now with the world we are living in. But some of the other things that we could look at and go, oh, that doesn't feel like someone is competently leading in this moment as far as a guest experience is concerned. A lot of those decisions might be being made apart from someone who would know what the guest experience is like. Like this is, and that's hard.
It's I always tell this story about at Lights Motors Action. There was they wanted to put an umbrella out front because we were like, there was no shade anywhere. Although I come from an area that was kind of notoriously like, oh, you work in the backlands. Oh, good for you. Like, great. Like that must be terrible. And I'm like, it sure is. But like, I loved a lot of the people I worked with, and I did enjoy what I did. And there is that sense of like. Jackie, I know you said you're like an actor, and that's true too. Because any job I do, I will always do the best of that job to my ability, because it is not the person that I interact with's fault that something went wrong in my day earlier in that day. And so I will never intentionally be rude or snappy or whatever to somebody that I don't know or anything like that. But we wanted to put an umbrella out front because it was just like you're just standing in the sun for like 3 or 4 hours at a stretch if you don't have a break, and there was just only one cast member out front from like when the park opened from like 8:30 until like 12:30. There was only one person out there, and you're just standing in the sun. we're like, can we get an umbrella? It took like a year and a half. And then when we finally got the umbrella, the area manager said it wasn't for us, it was for the guests. And that we were not allowed to stand in the shade as cast members because it was bad show. So we always had to be out front, in front, like in the sun. I remember it's same at the backlot tour. They used to come around, and if you were a step wherever the shade was, because it would change because of the entrance, the shadow changes throughout the day. Like you were, oh, you're not supposed to be in the shade. You're supposed to be out here. And I want to be like, how about you come stand out here for 4 hours and just get like, it's stupid stuff like that. Like something that you interact with every day that you can say, I know this is a better decision, but you'll get in trouble for doing that. So the frontline cast members literally have very little power to actually make a decision. And I kind of hate when people romanticize a Disney of an era gone by, like, oh, it was so much better and the whatever. And I want to be like, maybe, but that's also because they've taken away so many benefits from cast members, from frontline cast members. Like it was just constantly eroding. Like, it's one of those things that it frustrates me to no end. Also, there are 4 theme parks now, and there used to only be 1 in 1971. So like, yeah, there was a lot less decisions and stuff to get lost in the mix. But also, Denny hit the nail on the head. At Walt Disney World, the person who ultimately makes the big decision is not the person who is ever really in the park experiencing what happens in the park. That is somebody who works in an office building, maybe in Celebration, maybe not even in the state of Florida. It is. But at Disneyland, it's different because those people's office, they have to walk in and out of the park to get to where they're going. So I feel like they have a firsthand experience there that's different than ours. But I get very, it can be very frustrating, especially if you're somebody who does think about those steps of an element and you're having somebody scream in your face about something where you want to be like, I cannot help you. I am so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is that
God, he got me so angry at the end here.
A lot of people like go right to Bob Chapek. And the thing about being in upper management is that it's not always the top of the top who makes the final decision. A lot of those decisions are made by a team of people. And so it's always everyone's, when you're the manager, you get the brunt of everything. That's just how it is when you're in management. And I'm sure that the Walt Disney Company is no different. So, but at the same time, the whole competency thing sort of rubs me a little bit funny because, like you guys have said, the cast members that we see in the parks, those are not the people who are making these decisions. So when I see guests yelling at cast members, I've witnessed it many times about the way something is done. Those cast members don't have anything to do with making the decisions to do it that way. They are given a job to do and told that this is what we do. So whether or not they agree with it, they're there to do that, which is why I made the comment about being an actor, because not only do they need to do it, but they have to smile and act as though they're thrilled to be doing it, whether they are or not. And that's really hard.
It's not as easy as everybody makes it out to be. You know what I mean? Like people want cast members. The impression is that cast members are diamonds, right? They are these, bright, shiny things. But the reality of the situation is they're treated like pennies in the street. It's not. Yes. You can't expect that to always be the. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's frustrating.
Right now. Yeah. It's really hard because they're people. They're people, and they have a job to do. And they have to do that job to the best of their ability in the way that the company they work for wants them to do it. And so when people are in a park and they're mad about something, they need to take it to management. Go to guest services, bring your happy rear end over to guest services, wait in line and talk to someone there, because that's where those comments go to the people who can make changes.
Well, I do want to say that this person's experience could legitimately be he did encounter completely incompetent people, because I don't want to be out here singing the praises that every single human being that works at the Walt Disney Company is the most competent human being in the world, because we know that with the truth of any job, that is not true. That there are people who are just there and you're just like, how are you? How do you exist? Like, how do you live? Like, how do you go about life? Like, and that's just it's like thousands of people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be like, oh, it's the luck of the draw, but that's the it's quality control, I guess, is the problem. You know, or not the problem, but
well, what I was going to say
go
with
ahead,
it,
Mike.
not to interrupt you completely on it, but I think the problem is sometimes people hold Walt Disney World and theme parks in a different category, as if like, oh, well, unless you've worked in the theme parks, you don't always truly know what it's like. And I am guilty of saying that in some circumstances. There are definitely plenty of times that exists. However, not everything that happens inside a theme park is exclusive to theme parks. Like a customer service department. There is every store you walk into most likely has a customer service department where the people are there to solely try to help you fix your problems or get yelled at for little random things. But it's there. A big one that annoys me is the parking lots, and usually I will always complain about the parking lots, and I hate that I do it, but when I was in college, I would sometimes park cars in the summer at events. And so I learned how to manage it successfully and equally, and you know how to gauge when traffic's coming in to say, okay, well, you know, let's just establish rows now and let them park themselves later on. And then I get to Hollywood Studios an hour before park closing, and they're parking me in the very last row as if not any spaces are available up front. I mean, that hasn't been that bad since in the past year, but that was like pre-COVID. That was always like the biggest thing that would set me off. Like, I know that there are not 2,000 more people pulling in here before the end of the night. There are parking spaces up there. Just let us park ourselves. I can figure it out. I won't run anyone over.
You know what one bugs me? This might be another thing. What bugs you at the thing, but is how if you are a seasoned person like us who always goes to Disney World, is the two lanes. It's always two lanes. You drive up in the two lanes. Magic Kingdom, multiple lanes everywhere, just to merge into one lane at the end. And I'm like, that is not why these parking lots are set up with multiple lanes. They're set up with multiple lanes so you can park two lanes at once. One lane, the left lane turns in 2 rows before the front lane. The front lane goes around. That way, when the front lane needs to move back, it moves back 1 row. And that way you're not congesting people. And that's how you keep your flowing traffic going in. And I don't mean to be rude to tell these people how to do their job or anything like that, because I know this because I've seen them do it, and I've seen it and been like, wow, I'm so impressed with how the all that runs together. So it infuriates me. It used to, I guess, because like you said, Greg, it's not really as much like that anymore. But when you go to Magic Kingdom and 5 lanes are merging into 1 lane, and you're just like, it doesn't have to be like this.
No.
I do want to give a shout out to parking people, though, because I do feel like you have a nightmare of a job, because not only are guests terrible most of the time, but they have a vehicle that they're probably going to try and run you over with when they're mad. And also your shifts, I can't even imagine. Like, I complain when it was like standing at Lights Motors Action in that dead of the heat on that tar and everything like that. You're doing that all day. Day. That is a concrete jungle. Like, you are not. Alicia Keys right there. That's what it is. But it is. It would fry my brain, literally. Like, I don't know how you all do it. So, everybody in the parking people, I try to always take that break and be like, oh, I don't know.
I will, even when I don't agree with how they're parking me, I will wave and smile to every single person and be very polite to them, because I also know how terrible it is. And I had to park in grass fields most of the time. I wasn't parking in pavement parking lots, which that's
your shoes
10
are melting.
times worse. Yeah, and like with Disney specifically, like there's these days in Central Florida when the weather, it's going to get to 90 degrees. That was today, but it was in the low 60s this morning, and it's going to race 30 degrees. It doesn't happen all the time, but someone shows up whatever 7 a.m. for their parking lot shift, thinking it's going to be 90 degrees that day. And I know it's weather. It's all there for us.
But it might be too cold to wear the shorts.
That's what I'm
first thing in the
saying.
morning, and you're like, I'm freezing, and then before you know it, you're like, I can't change now, and you're like, well, now I've passed out and I fried like an egg on the parking lot.
Thank you. That's I was trying to get to it. Not enough. There's not even those options. It's like you have to decide one way or another.
Yeah.
It's like, am I going to prepare to be cold in the morning and then suffer in the heat, or can I do what? It's life isn't just made up of jackets and pants that you can take off and reveal shorts. I can't remember what those were called. They had
Rip away
zippers on
pants.
them.
Is that what you want?
Well, they had the rip away pants.
Breakaway,
but I was thinking of like in the 90s when
The zip. You want the zip
the zipper around the knee. Yeah.
around the knee? Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then you unzip it and
yeah.
it reveals shorts.
Convertible
Here's the
pants.
thing: we should be designing new costumes now for cast members. Then
I
see what you're
have far
saying.
too many of those shorts, and like looking back on it, I'm like, I can't
Oh, my.
believe that was my wardrobe for probably like 2-3 years, give or take.
We would
Wow.
find
Just for the man
random
on the go
legs.
who needs to. Yeah.
For the man who decides my legs are too hot, I need shorts.
Oh, this heat—it's too much.
Now.
It's too much.
Or the opposite. Do you feel a breeze? Let me reattach my legs.
Yeah.
I must do that.
Only the left one's hot now. Let's just take that one out.
Okay. That's it. We're done going off the rails on this topic. Things you took for granted, and then too long about parking, and now shorts that also turn into jeans. So thank you everyone on the panel for having this conversation with me. It was something.
It was.
That was something.
Yes,
for sure.
indeed.
But yes, I hope everyone out there enjoyed watching and listening to it. Again, if you want to support us, if you like this content, please consider using Dreams Unlimited Travel for your next Disney or Universal vacation. DreamsUnlimitedTravel.com. Get that free, no obligation quote today. Also, again, please make sure you're hitting that thumbs up, subscribing to us here on the Dis Unplugged, and leaving questions, comments, and future show suggestions all in the comment section below. So thank you so much for listening and watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next time we go off the rails. But until then, bye-bye.